Hey everybody, I just want to take a minute before this episode starts to thank everyone personally for tuning in and listening to the show. We love hearing from you guys and knowing that people are enjoying what we're doing. But more importantly, I want to offer an apology to everybody who's about to listen to this episode. I had some great people on with me, and we produced some great content, I think, talking about what we're excited about and some of the new rules. Unfortunately, one of my guest hosts was having some tech issues with their microphone, and there is a feedback hum. I've tried to edit out as much as I can. Some of it still unfortunately came through because I would just lose too much content taking it all out. And I hope you still enjoyed the episode. Thank you for listening to the Drunk GM podcast. I'm going to be talking about tabletop role-playing games, and hopefully today I can prove my love for gaming is stronger than my love of beer. Thank you for joining us for this special live show. And we decided to have a live broadcast available because we are marking the last few days of Savage Worlds Adventure Edition Kickstarter campaign, which is getting ready to wrap up. I believe it's 3 days now.
Yeah, I think so.
And so we decided to come on. This is our regular recording time, and we thought what better way to spend our time recording than talking about Savage Worlds, which we love, and the new edition, which we're all really super excited about. So I'm joined by Susan, who's one of my regular players in the 50 Fathoms campaign that people may have heard on the channel. How are you doing tonight, Susan?
I am doing very well. I just came up from a comic convention, so I'm a little discombobulated, but settling in. Looking forward to tonight's chat.
Super excited to have you on. And unfortunately, me and you recorded a couple weeks ago an episode, and we lost it in recording.
Bummer!
Tech issue on my end, unfortunately. But we're really happy to have you back again right now. And
I'm sure I'll repeat those things again over and over again, so we're good.
Perfect. We do this every 2 weeks, so come on and we'll tell the same stories.
Perfect.
And we have Nathan with us tonight, Nathan Carmen. People who watch the show know. He is he is Tricky Troll Games.
Yeah.
And he's a regular guest and friend of mine. How you doing tonight, Nathan?
Doing great. Looking forward to the conversation. I'm super excited for the new edition, so absolutely pumped.
And the last person joining us tonight is Bobby. Bobby of the GM's Table. And again, regular on the show and friend of the show, friend of mine. What's going on, Bobby?
I don't know how regular I am. I think I haven't been on in like 3 or 4 months now, which is crazy. But I'm doing good. I'm going to say up front, I have not read version 2 or version 3 of the Chase Rules because I'm figuring there's going to be a version 4.
Oh, come on. Don't say that.
No, we'll get into it. It's not a dig. It's just to see how things are.
I love version 3, so I hope there's not a version 4.
Me too.
I'm hearing a lot of good things. It's more the second I saw them go, oh, you guys don't like it? Here's version 2. I saw the rules were still in flux. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I got too much stuff. I'm not learning something that's going to potentially change. I'm going to see what comes out in the book. Because God knows how it'll twist and mutate.
Yeah, well, we'll talk a little bit about that. I haven't read much of them either. I think I'm still sitting on version 1, maybe 2, depending. But I downloaded them the other day, and we were playing a game that same day, and I didn't have time to read them. Savage Worlds Kickstarter, that has been a blast, huh?
Oh, my God.
The campaign itself is as exciting as having new rules coming out. If I could just get stretch goals every day of my life, like I wouldn't mind going to work.
Life should have stretch goals.
And then we'll start not meeting stretch goals and get horribly depressed as they keep stacking. And we're just like, I haven't even got that one.
That's true, right?
We're not all pinnacle.
But that's the great thing, right? So let's talk about that. We're about to meet all of our stretch goals.
Including the bonus, we didn't know we'd get this far. Here's 3 more stretch goals.
Yeah. So what do you guys think on the last day? They'll put up a couple more when we hit like way past what they thought.
Honestly, I'm hoping they just chuck a few more of their settings at us at this point. Like,
that'd be cool.
I'd love to have a few more PDFs. So, like, whatever they give us, I'm cool with.
I would love to see something like, we don't give you ETU, but we give you Rise of the Blackguard, the first 12 to midnight one, to get everybody the taste of my favorite setting. Because that's also the adventure they're running for that ETU stream with wildcards. So it'd make a lot of sense if they're like, here's the adventure wildcards ran.
Oh, that's cool, yeah.
Plus, they gave it out free for the ETU Kickstarter, so they've already done it once.
If you're listening, Shane.
Yeah. Well, that's more Ed and Preston, because they wrote that before they were officially Pinnacle. But guys, we all love Pine Box. Just get more people to love Pine Box.
Yeah, I would love, and like you said, they're running that on the wild cards, and that's going to be a huge, people are going to want that adventure right now.
It's a great adventure.
I'm really excited.
I have to admit, I've never read ETU, so I started watching the wild cards, and I thought, the guys talk about it all the time. It looks like a fun setting. So I just actually, I was sitting in my hotel last night, and I was like, I need something to read. So I just downloaded, the base ETU rules, and I'm like, God, this is a really cool setting.
What's hilarious is the adventure they're running, Rise of the Blackguard, was written about 10 years before ETU.
I don't want to get too much caught up on ETU, but I do plan on running some, and you'll have an invite when I do, Susan.
Yay.
I've never played it or run it, so I'm pretty excited about it myself, because it is a really exciting setting to get into. But speaking of settings, we have a lot of settings coming to us with this stretch goal.
God.
So I know which one I'm most excited about, and I can't wait to talk about it a little bit. But what is everyone else most excited about setting-wise for what's coming at us?
I'm currently scrolling.
Well, I can start off if nobody's really thought about it, because I can't stop thinking about it. I cannot wait to play Tour of Darkness. I've been so excited about this setting since I first heard about it. It's the Weird Wars Vietnam. They use it as a reference material in the core book for Deluxe. And I just recently picked up Freedom Squadron, which is a different conversation, Bobby.
I've already told myself I'm not going to talk about Freedom Squadron.
We could run the coolest Predator game using Weird Wars Vietnam and Freedom Squadron. I'm so pumped.
One catch, bringing back to our other conversation before this, you have to read Golden Glory so we can add traps. Because we need traps in a Predator game.
Golden Glory is so good.
But so what other settings are you guys, because there's a ton. I mean, we have Deadlands Noir, which I've never played.
I was going to say, let's not bring in the jump starts.
No, yeah. Mini settings and full settings. Evernight is one of the full settings we're getting.
I forgot about Evernight.
Honestly, I'm most excited for Deadlands Noir.
Me too.
Yeah, because Noir is such one of my favorite film genres.
Me too.
And genres. It's so good. So I would love to see. And in truth, I did not get on board with Savage Worlds with Deadlands. And I wasn't that interested because I'm not a huge Western guy. So when I found about Deadlands Noir, I was like, okay, this is I'm all on board now. So
see, here's where I'm torn on the Deadlands Noir. I'm super excited for everybody to get Deadlands Noir because I already love it. It's already one of my favorite settings. For anyone who wants to complain how if they don't think, without talking about new rules, if they don't think Taunt and Intimidate get enough to do anyways, this gives you so much with the interrogation rules and the tailing rules.
Right.
This is like a go-to. This and ETU are your two go-to modern books for Savage Worlds. They're so good.
The only reason I hadn't bought it was because I knew my players wouldn't want to play it because they're all about either superheroes or heroic fantasy. So I was just like, I found it for $15 hardback on Amazon. I was like, I gotta buy it. I gotta buy it right now.
Yeah.
Okay, Dad. I do have a saying, but I have to ask: are we going to have a question of favorite stretch goal beyond settings?
Oh, sure, I'm
going to break this rule. Okay.
No, we can talk about all kinds of things that we love.
My favorite setting coming, because I love Deadlands Noir, but I already own it. I'm happy to get the soundtrack. I'm super happy for that. But Tesla Rangers sounds so cool. It's by the writer of Girl Genius. And I'm just like, what? This is everything I hoped Goon would be.
I'm not going to lie to you, Bobby. The second I saw Tesla Rangers, I was like, Bobby's going to love this.
I'm glad you thought of me. I love how we haven't ever gamed together and you immediately are like, that's him. That's his sensibilities right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, just the title is ridiculous. Therefore, we think of you.
That's what it is. Yep.
It opens with, "It's been 11 years since America lost the robot war." Yeah, that's me. That's my games.
That's
Like,
totally
Dude, that's the kind of cheese we need in our tabletop game.
yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. So, Bob, you also mentioned other stretch goals that we're excited about. So while we're talking about stretch goals, we also have a bunch of great stretch goals coming in the form of gaming aids. Kind of across the board, though. We have charts, we have physical aids.
There's an entire VTT pack that we don't know what that really means.
I mean,
Right.
we have maps, we have music. And now I'm only getting the PDF, admittedly, but I'm even getting a ton of content, and people who are getting physical reward are getting like
so much,
an insane amount of things. So out of all this stuff that I can't even possibly think to remember to reference it all right now, what's everyone looking forward to on the gaming aids?
I did go with the ultimate tier on the Kickstarter, and I have to say, like those sort of invisible template things look cool to me because I do use minis in my at-home game, and I also like the sort of the tactile, like the token type things for like statuses. Because
the
my
token
players,
counters are so cool.
The ammo counters are really
ammo counter thing. That was probably the stretch goal that I got the most excited about, ridiculously.
Yeah,
Me too. That's the one when I started posting, like, "We almost got it, guys."
It's like it's like the Cracker Jacks buck.
That's the craziest thing about Kickstarter, right? It's like you don't know the things you want until they're like, "Hey, we'll give you this too," and you're like, "No way!" The templates that go on the acrylic template, the stickers, are amazing. Like, I'm not even getting them, and I want them so bad.
I'm really hoping they do like a cardstock version of the art templates as like a final stretch goal, though, because we unlocked all those different art styles of the templates. Give it a physical.
Oh yeah.
But I think for me, because you guys know I mainly run virtual, is the map pack. Because like I pulled it up, and I'm just going to quickly list it off because of how useful this is. They really wisely pick stuff that are both iconic to settings, but universally good. The Flash Gordon one is a crashed spaceship. Deadlands Noir is just an office building.
Yeah.
Savage Rifts is Castle Refuge, which is like a must for Savage Rifts, but also, do you need a fortress? Done. Deadlands Hell on Earth is the Skull Trucker Arena, which is a post-apocalyptic death dome.
Right. Now, you can use... Now, keep in mind, I mean, get a little creative, and now you have the Coliseum in a historically accurate game.
ETU is off-campus housing. Do you need a number of basic homes?
Right.
You're done.
No, yeah. So, Bobby, you stole my answer. I'm so pumped for the map pack, but I'll come up with another one because there's enough that I can pick a different thing.
Oh my god, I didn't realize you got the drop ship from last Parsec.
It's
having
literally
Red Iron Gate. I'm like, yes, I needed that.
Hearing Bobby geeking out is like one of my favorite things. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you, like Bobby would like. It's like why I watch the GM's table. Like
really. I will give you a hint. In fact, I should send you the video because my patrons have already gotten it. Now that I have a new editing suite and stuff, the GM's table is getting upgraded. So now my geeking is going to do things like, I call him Sergeant Slaughter because he's a ripoff of it, but the entire opening of my Freedom Squadron review is me having a back and forth conversation with Colonel Carnage.
Yeah. It's pretty awesome. He'll have to. Yeah. By the way, the GM's table is the new stuff that I've seen, the graphics and like the intro that you let me preview. Looks amazing. I'm super excited to see what you do further down the line.
I can do keyframing now. Like that's all it is.
It looks great though. It's going to be awesome. Nathan, I don't think you answered though. What are you looking forward to? Because you run home games.
So yeah, I'm almost entirely home. For me, I'd say the thing that I'm most excited about is, well, not most excited about, but something I'm really looking forward to is the power cards. Super excited for that. Like, because for me, like as a GM and like even just as an ace as a licensee, I find myself like I'll be like digging through the book to look for, and honestly, like it would just be nice when I'm writing this stuff down to have the cards and be like, and they also have okay, they have this power. Sure. Yeah.
The status cards are brilliant. I love status cards because players no longer need to remember. You give them a damn card. When it's gone, they give it back.
Yeah.
Well, and the status. Look at the card I gave you. Done.
I actually got psyched about the gear cards.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
You pick up an AR-15. Here you go.
What I'm most excited for is the one that isn't unlocked, the vehicle cards. Because again, I haven't seen the new chase rules. I was open about that. But imagine being able to just put down the vehicles in a chase.
Yeah.
As part of those cards.
Yeah, pop them down. And then have the stats right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because I love that. Even in virtual, I can just drag those onto the table. And I'm just like, boom, it's there.
Yeah, I've officially vowed to learn how to use Roll20 with all this new stuff coming to me.
Yeah. I'll teach you. We'll
that's
figure out
awesome.
the time and I'll teach you.
Yeah, because admittedly, Nathan, thank you, because Anna, my fiance, who is playing in a campaign with us, has the bug now, and she's like, I want to play more. She's bummed that I had to cancel for our next session for work. She's like, I'm going to play without you. Like, that's it.
I'm glad to hear that. I feel like I pick on her in the games because she's just so much fun. So it's easy to pick on her,
said that you've been so great and so supportive. She's like, wants to play more, and I'm like, what do you want to play next? She's like, I don't care, pick something, because I don't know what I like, because she's not really like in like the nerd culture for lack of a better word. Like, but I'm like, everybody loves role playing. Like, once you let down your guard and you do it, like everyone loves role playing. It's the greatest hobby on earth.
Here's the thing. Savage Worlds is open enough and has such a breadth of settings. It's what kind of movies do you like?
Yeah.
We'll find something for you. Because my wife hates fantasy, though she loves Harry Potter, but hates fantasy. Isn't a fan of sci-fi. Then she saw ETU, and it's modern. And things actually aren't that weird unless you delve into it. She's a big like true crime person and stuff, so you can like do murder mysteries and stuff. And all of a sudden she just straight up told me, it's how I got her to play. She was like, if you ever run ETU, I'll play. That's the only one I'll play. And then she ran ETU, and she's like, I love this. We're doing this every week.
Yeah, it's crazy. But so I'm going to use that as a transition because somebody said something that is perfect. There's a ton of settings with Savage Worlds, and we're about to get introduced to an absurd
like 60?
amount. Yeah, I don't even know what the count is.
They said it was 2 a day, and it's a 30-day Kickstarter.
Oh my God.
So.
Right, and they did retroactively add a bunch, so I don't know if they did every day worth, but if they did, it's 60 days, or 60 jump starts.
It's like 50 or so. We know at least 50, someone had said, so.
When they first asked us about it, I was like, oh, hey, I could do a jumpstart. That'd be a lot of fun. And then I saw all these people just like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do 3. Can I do 5? How many can I do? I'm going to do. And then I was just like, you know what? I'm going to sit this out.
I did think about you when the jumpstart started. But there's a ton of them, and there's a bunch of really exciting ones for me. And some of them I've never even heard of. I've never heard of the publisher or the setting. And that's not a detriment to them. It's just that there's so much good quality Savage Worlds out there that it's hard to get exposed to all of it. But so there's a few that I'm really excited about that I know about that I never got to play. And there's a few new ones that really piqued my interest. So for me personally, Jared Gunning from the Savage Worlds GM podcast, he's doing a jumpstart for Dead End. Super excited about that because I really love zombie stuff because everybody does. You just can't help yourself.
Yeah.
He does like a really dark one, which is super cool. And Low Life is one of the jump starts, which I have the Low Life player manual, but I don't have like the whole GM section. So I'm going to get the jump start, and I am so excited to play that. Now, anyone who doesn't know about Low Life, it is like post-apocalyptic. I don't even know what to call it.
Yeah, it's post-apocalyptic comedy.
Yeah,
You
it's
can
comedy.
play as sentient Twinkies. That sums up Low Life.
Yeah. There's also other people that look like garden gnomes. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah. Honestly, like, the first thing I think of when I think of Low Life is, like, 90s Nickelodeon cartoons.
It's all real. You can turn Low Life into all real monsters so easily.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what I think of. Is that kind of stuff.
So what? How are the jump starts going to be structured? I mean, how would you use them if you don't have the book for that setting?
So I've seen the way I'm thinking about it is Eric Lamoureux from Just the Start Imagination. He is releasing his Wise Guys as a jump starter, but he released a primer for it a while back. And I'm thinking that the primer is going to be a lot like the jump starter. He's probably going to modernize the rules for Suede and then just re-release it if I had to guess.
Mm-hmm.
So my guess is it's going to work with the primer. It has a little bit of setting information. It has some of the edges, some new hindrances, if there's any skill changes, any setting rules, or maybe some if they have a ton of setting rules. And then maybe like one little quick adventure setup. It won't include everything. It's like a snippet.
I know they're all designed. Pinnacle wants them all to be designed with something playable.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say, I don't know if you got what the template is, Nathan. Like, I've talked to some people, so I've gotten some of the info. I haven't seen it. Have you seen the template?
Yeah.
What they're looking for? Okay.
Yeah.
So, I believe it's supposed to be 15 pages, give or take a page. Any necessary setting rules are in the jumpstart, from what I've heard. If it needs the setting rule to play, it has to be in the jumpstart. Any character you make from the jumpstart has to be able to translate directly into continuing the game with the full game.
Yeah.
There has to be some amount of character creation. It only needs to be like a handful, but a handful of edges, a handful of hindrances to give you an idea of what's there.
Right. And
then mainly fluff. And they did say there has to be gear in it, from what Shane told me.
Oh, okay.
If it's a setting that has unique gear, there has to be sampling of gear that starting characters would have.
Is it going to have pre-gens?
I believe they're encouraged. It's either if there's not pre-gens, there has to be enough material for character creation within the game.
Gotcha.
I feel like that with that kind of setup, like it's pretty much begging for pre-gens. So I'd be really surprised if there weren't.
Yeah. Because basically, what you do is you do pre-gens, make sure every pre-gen has one or two unique edges and hindrances, and then those are the ones you include, which is what Eric did with his.
Yep, his primer, and especially 15 pages. You run 4 pre-gens. That's 4 pages, and I'm not saying that publishers are looking to take the easy way out, but 11 pages of content, you can fit a lot in on a primer, cutting out the extras. So I wouldn't be surprised if they all include, a snippet of like backstory, history, example play, and then a lot of.
And they all have an adventure. They're also all guaranteed to have an adventure.
Oh, that's awesome! Yes. I like that a lot because that shows a little more of the flavor.
Because they're all supposed to be runnable right out of the book.
Yeah.
Opening and saying, here's what the world is, but no adventures isn't runnable.
Oh, no, I can run anything.
I'm not going to lie. There's some setting books I've had to review that bugged me because there wasn't even a single adventure in it. And I'm like, okay, cool. I have a good feel for this, but without even one adventure, I can't run it to get my feet wet before I start writing them.
That's fair.
Right.
That's very fair. So I talked about the jump starts that I'm really excited about. What is other? Oh, I did skip one. I want to say there's one called I think it's not Spirit. It's the superheroes in 1776.
Yeah.
It's
Spirits of 1786.
Is that? Is that? Okay.
That's my second behind Tesla.
Oh, God, I'm so.
That's
excited.
not a jump start. That's one of the mini campaigns.
No. I think. Hold on, let me pull it up. But somebody else talk about what they like, and I'll check out what I'm thinking of. I think there's 2 of them that are both like around the same time period, but different settings.
All right. Yeah, I'm about to open up the jump.
I remember what you're talking about, Bobby, and that one look, that art look,
the art coming in looks amazing,
so good.
So I don't have the list in front of me. The Wise Guys is one of the ones that popped out for me because I love those old. Like for me old, but for you guys probably fairly new, like Big Heat, Casino, those kind of Wise Guy movies. Really, that one to me looks really good. And I'm not really big on campy, even though I'm playing one of Bobby's games. Campy or ridiculous, but isn't there one, and I can't remember the name of it, about like a shark and a trailer park?
Oh yes,
trailer
park just took mine.
That would look so funny to me.
Can we talk about that one for a second? Be brilliant.
Didn't they run that at a con recently with like a ton of pre-gens, and people just like picked up another one when their character died?
That's their model
for for con games.
You get a deck of pre-made characters and you cycle through them as they get slaughtered.
Yeah. I'm so excited to see that's actually mine of the jump starts. Because I will say there's a few like Beasts and Barbarians I'm excited for because it's one of those like I've always wanted to read and just haven't. So I'm like, yay! I finally get to look at it. But it's not like, oh, I didn't know this was coming. Trailer Park Shark Attack. I was like, this is talk about my jam because I could throw a Trailer Park Shark Attack in the middle of VTU.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Well, and I feel like anyone who's seen Sharknado, man.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
It's brilliant. So I want to interject two things. The one I was talking about was the Legion of Liberty.
Oh yeah, forgot about that.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure you're like superheroes fighting in like the Revolutionary War.
Yeah, you're revolutionary supers.
But you guys earlier were talking about a setting that I needed for traps. Was it Hope and Glory?
Golden Glory. Right?
I'll say Hope and Glory is one of the jump starts, but I'll have to check out Golden Glory. I've never read it.
Glory is the one I was talking about before we started.
Yeah.
What is that one? What's the concept there?
It's old history, Victorian steampunk, but the timeline's pushed up to, I want to say it's the 80s. There's a lot to retain in the core book because it's like 100 pages of fluff before you get to character creation.
It's one of those, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
Golden Glory, though.
Golden Glory is let's take Savage Worlds and make it an OSR D&D clone.
Oh, okay. Cool.
But
And it's
good.
fun. Yeah, but good.
The generator in that is fantastic.
Brilliant. If you need like a room generator or any kind of like random location generator, Golden Glory is kind of a go-to with how they do it with a deck of cards.
It's hands down my favorite Savage book, produced by third party. Personally,
I'm gonna have to look into it a little bit more.
I actually just realized, Nate. Imagine if you go into a town and you just put a bunch of cards on the table and flip them, and that's the dimensions of each house and whether or not it's locked. Using the exact same rules. You just generated a town.
Yeah. But of the jump starts, Dan, I was going to say, War Beasts and Worms. Yeah, so it's like, it's fantasy, but it's Native American mythology, which is, there's a wealth of stuff there that just is underappreciated, and it's just so cool. And the guy that's doing it really seems to know his stuff. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what that looks like.
Yeah, he's really active on the Facebook page for Savage Worlds. So I've been able to follow some of his progress. Kind of gives people a sneak peek into like something, because some of them are like revised old settings, which is still cool.
Right.
But you might not get that full setting converted to Suede, which shouldn't deter people from buying it. I'm currently running 50 Fathoms, which is like one of the first settings, and it still translates to Deluxe, and it will translate to Suede, and you can do it.
It's like the gold standard of plot point campaigns for most people.
Right, and it still holds up over time, but it's nice to see new products coming out in the jump starts too.
Degrees of Horror is better. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
To be fair, you guys haven't made it past the first plot point of my campaign.
We're still looking for it.
No, I will say it's like the best sandbox I've ever seen. And that it's saying Degrees of Horror is better. It's not saying it's bad. Degrees of Horror is just
Degrees of Horror is definitely always the running mate of like what's the best plot point campaign.
That and the Necessary Evil.
Which is crazy because Deadlands has a ton of really great ones and it gets no love when it comes to like honorable mentions.
It gets plenty of love with money.
It's a great setting. But
it is. It really is.
We're going to see a new Deadlands coming out soon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if it makes sense, I feel like it gets overlooked because it's not overlooked.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. Like, people don't mention it because it's a given. Right. Like,
here's the other thing: jumping into Deadlands is a big investment. When people are like, "What's a good plot point campaign?" They want a plot point campaign, not knowing details from like 8 of them.
Right.
Yeah.
The real greatness comes from how they're all interconnected in the whole world.
Well, it's funny. I promote Deadlands, but I've played one session officially, and I don't even know if it was from like a written module or not. It was so fun though. It was great. All right, so that covers kind of jump starts and what we're all looking forward to, and it actually covers a quite wide spread of some of the people putting out this work, because all the jump starts are third-party publishers, and those guys all deserve love, because they're all pretty much what keeps Savage Worlds alive, in my opinion. Pinnacle's amazing, but without the other people putting out this content, we'd have a pretty limited product line. And although great, it wouldn't provide the widespread of what keeps people coming back to Savage Worlds.
About to get a whole lot wider too.
Yeah. I'd also like to give a shout out to nobody mentioned it, but I am excited about it. Crystal Hearts.
Right.
Yeah, Crystal Hearts looks
awesome.
great. Oh, in fact, I didn't see it. Is Thin Blue Line getting one?
I don't,
because I love Thin Blue Line.
I remember your review, and you spoke super highly of it. I don't think it did.
It was just one of those where, like, thinking of ones I love. I wonder if that got in, because I'll admit I stopped tracking every day.
Oh, I also pop on every couple of days and just like open up the whole list because we have 6 days left, so we'll still get. 3 days left.
Right, still get six
more jump starts. So that kind of covers what we're excited about from the campaign. Let's talk a little bit about what we know is coming from all the sneak peeks, all the outside information that has come along. Unfortunately, we can't really talk about what we're excited about possibly seeing because I am joined by an ace, someone who is working with an ace and is people that have been able to play test some of these new rules.
I'm not going to get in trouble. Nope.
Right. So, of course, there's all kinds of things that
I'm freelance. I gotta.
But let's talk about some of the stuff, if we can be careful, talk about the things that have been announced officially that are coming out, the changes in the new edition, and we see quite a bit of them. And Bobby was kind enough to put it up. I hadn't seen it yet. The Game Geeks. They released a review, and it was quite telling. It looks like it's been up a few days. It has a ton of views already.
Right.
Everyone who's seeing me has probably seen this video already, based on the numbers that it pulled in.
I will personally say, for a shout out for Kurt Weigel, anyone who likes my videos that teach you how to run Savage Worlds, thank him. He is the reason I started playing Savage Worlds.
Same. Actually, Kurt is the reason I started playing too.
Yeah.
So.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. I think my videos are crap because I hold them up to his quality.
I've never watched his videos before today. I'm going to check out his backlog because I have some products that I watch regularly, but that I mostly do it through podcast form because I listen at work and it's a lot easier.
Funny thing, it actually started, if I remember correctly, as a cable broadcast show, like Wayne's World style.
Wow.
We had a cable broadcast backyard wrestling show in high school that was on public access on Saturday morning.
Imagine someone who turns on like what's on public access, and it's a tabletop RPG review show.
Oh, yeah.
Followed by my backyard wrestling.
Exactly.
That's right.
Lineup.
It is, honestly. But
oh man.
So I did listen to Kurt's that short bit on the way home tonight, and it was a nice quick overview of most of the changes we already know. And he seemed to be pretty much in favor of most of them. And one of the things that he kind of shouted out, and it hasn't been a big deal in my games because none of my characters are like the face kind of characters, but is this idea of getting rid of charisma. And I'm actually super fine with it. Kind of curious how you guys fall on that.
As someone who has repeatedly have players that go for like 8 charisma and stuff, I will say the main thing, at least as long as you're running the rules correctly, that's usually the big asterisk in Savage Worlds. Remember to actually run the rules how they're telling you to. It's not charisma's broken because you can get it so high. It's a trap that players are wasting to get it that high, because in Deluxe's rules, you can't raise someone's attitude more than 1 or possibly 2 if the GM says it's okay to, their attitude. So if you have a +8 charisma and the GM says their attitude can't go up more than 1, it's pointless. Like, and that if a GM's running, again, social encounters, how they say in the book to run them, it's so many wasted edges because someone's came from probably like a Pathfinder or D&D mentality where I need the big bonuses, and they realize they wasted like 2-3 advances.
The only thing I would say to that is penalties. I mean, but even then, that's situational. So yeah. I agree with you. on the whole. Well, and something that he said that I did not quite agree with was where he was talking about how even if you stack it that high, like you're saying, like it doesn't really matter because the GM, it's still GM's call at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because I've had this situation where a player's been like, I have a +6 charisma, and that's all it did, and I'm like, yeah, dude, this is the max it can allow, to increase the attitude, and it was a source of frustration for like you're saying, source of frustration for the player. But even when I first read the rules, I was like, why is this here? Like I remember that, like this doesn't feel necessary.
I think
me too.
The biggest problem with charisma as it is now is basically how it's written without opening the book and reading is it's like it will apply to persuasion. It might apply to these skills. And by getting rid of it and making it flat bonuses to specific skills, and in each head saying exactly what those skills, when you get the bonuses to, rather than it just going, it's charisma. The GM decides when your different charisma bonuses. Because, like, charismatic and attractive both give bonuses to charisma, but they give them at different times. Now, the edge will tell you what times you get a bonus, and now they're just like that. By getting rid of charisma, you clean the rules up so much.
Something I can say definitely about this book is it is very concise and clear. It's very clear. And so that's one thing I think that Nixon Charisma does is it really just cleans that up, makes it clear this is when you get it, this is when you don't get it. End of story. Yeah, so I love it. I think it's a really smooth change.
Yeah. I think a best way to describe that, again, I think I'm safe in saying it this way, is Deluxe was written very well to play the game. Adventure is written to learn the game. And Deluxe wasn't fully written to learn the game.
Yeah, that's been a lot of the community says that you learn playing Savage Worlds by playing it.
Yeah.
And it's
this book's actually so more cut and dry and gives much better examples. And how the rules flow, it's so much easier to pick up. I
think another part of what we see with Savage Worlds and where it relates to charisma is that Savage Worlds is not like attrition and number crunching in nature. And when you look at something like charisma, it's taking flavor and like the fun part of the game and turning it into arithmetic, which can be fine. We do it with combat and we're okay with that because it's necessary. But I think they maybe finally realized getting away from these old traditions, and it's not necessary to sit here and squish the numbers down until they make sense for talking to people. Now it's okay. I'm going to try to persuade. I know they still have rules for social encounters. That's not going to be gone. But they're changing the nature of it to be, I'm hoping, I haven't seen all of them. Again, I'm not as in the loop as some of the other guys on this podcast. I'm speaking just from speculation, but what I've seen and what I think Pinnacle is starting to realize with this new edition from what I've seen. They're going to be getting away from some of like the number keeping and getting into more of like the play fun part of it and making it quicker. One dice roll kind of resolves the whole thing. Or if you want to succeed, you're probably going to succeed. And if you want to, it's most of Savage World seems to be geared towards success. That's what the players like, and that's good for everybody, even the GM. And so I think that you're going to see a lot more of that with Charisma, where it's going to be faster, easier, and a lot less of checking numbers. It wasn't even good enough to make a stat in Savage Worlds. It became a derived stat, and then it just had no place there either. Now it's just getting the boot.
It wasn't even really a derived stat because it was a nebulously derived stat. Like it was a derived stat that fluctuated, which was weird.
Yeah.
There's two things in everything you said. A, I feel weird about, because with how they've put forth chases, I feel okay with saying this. There's a lot more of this tokens and counting tokens now in
they got rid of
aspects
that
of the system.
Yeah, there does seem to be more
the concept of tokens, and then the other it's geared more towards success, but it's one of those things you've seen a lot of, and the reason I'm okay with saying this is we've seen this in their setting books a lot over the last 5 years of less edges that say you get +2 instead of saying you avoid 2 points of penalty. And that mentality is going much further forward, which I think kind of I don't want to put this off as like it's a bad thing to new GMs, but it kind of idiot-proofs running the game because the GMs that forget to give penalties, you don't have players super stacking all the bonuses.
And then the tests and I can never remember the goddamn name. The tests and tricks. They're getting more of like that treatment where they're kind of changing how they work to be more of a reactionary thing instead of.
Yeah, they've talked about that already. I'm not gonna lie. I wish they took tests of will and tricks and turned them into tests. Why the hell didn't they just call them tricks?
I know.
Every single thing you're doing is a trick.
Yeah.
Well,
that's like my only complaint with it is I wish you called them tricks. It would make more sense. It's like, oh no, you're making a test. People who are honestly new to gaming won't get that. People who are used to other systems will be like, okay, I'm making a check. But people who are new to gaming will be like, what? But if you say, no, you're making an agility trick, Nathan, we've talked about this. I'm very much about the vernacular and word uses being very deliberate to help people understand things. If you say, you're making an agility trick, someone who's never played a game knows what you're saying. If you go, oh, you need to make an agility test against him. Wait, what?
The test vocabulary to show like the opposed side of it. It's a thing.
And I get it from that point. It's funny though because it sounds like if you're doing an agility test, aren't you athletics test? Aren't you testing their athletics? No, you're testing their agility.
Yeah, I almost feel like either tricks or like challenges or something like that sort of also invokes the opposed nature of it is key. But I definitely think, particularly in the games that I run, those that aspect to the encounters is going to be far more robust, and it's going to bring my characters in, or my players in, so that they're actually going to be more strategic in their teamwork. And I think that's going to be just a game changer for my folks.
I think it says a lot that I'm standing here complaining about what it's called, not how it works. And I want to point that out because it works phenomenally. And we were talking about things in a vacuum. We talked about support. You got to look at tests in combination with support.
Yeah.
Because combined, they're amazing.
Right.
Yeah. So I can say too, in tests, they've already revealed all that. So one of the things that I'm working on, I had a player do a test. He got a Joker on his turn. So he's set up to do this awesome thing. And he's taking, they're bounty hunters. So he's trying to take this guy down. And he wants to use one of his powers to like kind of stun the guy, not, just startle him when it's not normally used for that. And I was like, okay, we'll just make it a test.
Yeah.
And it was flawless. And he made the guy vulnerable. And the barbarian at the table picked up a pint and just smashed it over the bad guy's head. And that vulnerability, allowed him to get a raise. And it was perfect. It was like really cinematic. It worked really well. He flashes fire in the guy's face. He stumbles back. The barbarian just picks up a big tankard and just, and it was just awesome. It was smooth. And I absolutely loved it. And it just, in general, the changes like that, I think, are phenomenal. And I think they're going to do exactly what they set out to do, which is really all you can ask a product to do.
Another thing I think is going to lend a lot to the narrative, and we don't have to stop talking about that, the test stuff specifically, but it kind of reminded me of the next thing I want to talk about was the quick encounters.
Yeah.
I think that kind of falls along the same line where it lends a unique perspective to skills you might not get a chance to use all the time, but you say, well, I'm really good at this thing and I only get to use it once in a while. I'm going to try it on this quick encounter. And obviously not every situation applies, but it could be, these big montage scenes, or it could be a setup scene. I think it's an amazing mechanic. I'm super excited about it. We ran one already. I play tested it. I mean, I don't know if I did it the way they wanted, but we had a blast. So if I did do
brilliant.
It's such a simple mechanic that it's like, how could you not use it?
My biggest thing with that, there's some other stuff I want to talk about this, but it's going to circle back. We always circle around. For quick encounters, and this is something I want to bring up because I even believe in the reveal, it says this in it, and it's a Savage Worlds is full of things that go by so quick, if you don't notice, you'll miss it. Every single person that complains that chases are too complicated and why can't there be, like, why can't we just make chases easy? Why can't they go quickly? They say quick encounters can be used for chases. If you want simple chases, if you want fast chases, you have the rules right there, but they're not only for chases. If you want chases to be a mini game, you use the chase rules. If you don't, they're providing something else for you already. I wanted to get that out there for all the people that are like, chases are too complicated. They answered that. With this.
Yep.
Yeah, I used Quick Encounter in one of my recent sessions, and it worked beautifully. They were drugging somebody to like steal his keys, and it was, and it was a great way for them to use, again, like you said, skills they don't ordinarily use, or even for one of them, it was a skill she was untrained in, and because she got the other guy doing a distraction maneuver to kind of like as the support role.
Mm-hmm.
That helped her to get the sleight of hand in.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing.
It worked really well.
It develops the teamwork because the example they use, and I think we used it the same way. You do like the first roll can lend the assist to the second roll.
The second roll,
it becomes this like it's
cascade.
It's set up within a setup. But it's a and it can build that tense moment that. The same thing a dramatic task can do, but in a quarter of the time.
Right.
Honestly, I feel like tests, support, and quick encounter are showing that they finally realize what the true secret sauce to making Savage Worlds great is, and what makes Savage Worlds better than any other game. For a long time, it was the dice can ace and things can go amazing. We use cards. We have all these great tables. The secret to why Savage Worlds, and this is opinion of it's the best, but why Savage Worlds is special, is you can make a character that has nothing to do with combat and meaningfully support people in combat. Tests of Will back was, I have a social character who isn't just, I try to make a rule and the GM maybe comes up with, we're going to role play it instead. Cool. No, there's rules in the game that go, social characters matter in combat. By expanding out tests, expanding out support, and the quick encounters are basically going, no matter what skills you think you're good at, if you can figure it out, you're useful all the time. Mm-hmm. And that is something I don't think many games do, and it's very special for Savage Worlds. Because you can be anyone and matter. Not just be anyone, but matter.
Right.
I think, too, something that's really useful is just the support and tests alone. Like you're saying, like anyone can be useful with those. But also, too, something that is great is that they're so simple. Players grasp them in 2 seconds and are ready to go with it. Like, they can run with that.
Right.
And I think we all have those players that, like, they enjoy playing. The role-playing isn't quite their thing. Maybe it's a little out of their element. I've seen it happen. Where they're just, I can use my fighting to distract this guy. Like I can do that. Like I
can have a really good fighting and be a pacifist and use my fighting regularly. Like that's so cool.
Yeah. Well, one of my characters is a pacifist, and so she's taking advantage of things like her distracting and taunting and things like that, so that she can actually participate more effectively in those combats and create the scenario where the fighter then can kind of come in. But it's also creating so many more opportunities for them to be creative in non-combat encounters, and they're doing more in the play to create the encounter scenarios. Right. Mm-hmm. So like I didn't come up with the idea of, hey, why don't you drug that guy and steal his keys? Right. That was them. And I'm like, okay, quick encounter. Here we go.
Yeah. As GMs, we never plan for anything that they actually do.
Right.
We need the players to drug someone and take their stuff. Like, absolutely.
Somehow they have created an edition that requires even less GM prep than Deluxe.
Yeah.
And how do you do that?
And you know what it seems like they're doing, and I like it, and a lot of people won't, and that's fine if they don't. Because the older I get, the more I get into a different kind of gameplay. We're getting more into narrative gameplay and less into combat skirmishes. Yep. We now have quick combat and quick encounter, we don't even have to run tabletop combat anymore. Now, it's still an option, obviously. People who like it will never have to stop. And I do like it once in a while. It's fun. And we played Freedom Squadron. We already mentioned it. But after playing it in Theater of the Mind, I was like, man, this needs a big tabletop production. Because it's just more fun to kill tons
Minis
of people.
Yeah.
Right. Like, it's better for that. But Savage Worlds seems to be moving this direction where if you want this quick narrative storytelling, deep character-based game, you can now run that so easy without having your session dragged down by a four-person gunfight.
Yes.
Well, what's funny is, again, to quote Kirk Weigel, when he was talking about Savage Worlds and he was talking about crunch in the first, I think it was the first review of it, he said games have a level of crunch. And if you think of literal crunch, you have GURPS that are like pine nuts. They almost break your teeth. And then you have Fate, which is like oatmeal. It's just goo. Savage Worlds was Cheerios. I feel like Adventurers Edition is still Cheerios. It just sat in the milk for a little bit. Like, that's it. That's all that happened. The Cheerios just softened a little bit.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I love the direction it's heading in. Because, like I said, the older I get, the more I want like the narrative play and less of like tracking numbers.
This community is interesting because I have both used this system to bring in more non-gamers than ever before, but the actual community is mostly GMs who are just tired of running complicated crap.
Yeah.
Well,
one of the things that I love about it too is that it is more narrative. You guys are right. Like, it's headed in that direction, but it's still tactical.
It's still tactical and it's still mechanical. Every narrative choice has a mechanic tied to it, but they wrote the mechanic so brilliantly, it's always the same mechanic.
Right.
You're not remembering different rules.
Right. And that's where the narrative comes in, right? Is that it's narrowed down to a few mechanics, but those have so many tactical possibilities that the combat still can be played out in skirmish as well. Yeah. I don't use minis personally. We actually don't really use a table right now. We just kind of sit around. But I mean, you easily can use the minis and bust out all that stuff, gang up bonuses, all that good stuff. And it's fantastic. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But it's still narrative.
Yep. Yeah, no, and when I say less tactics, I certainly don't mean less mechanics.
Oh, right.
They're not removing the things that make it make sense and turning it into like, I also enjoy games that have very rules light games. One that I recently played, I'm a huge fan of, and want to play again so badly is Fiasco.
Yes,
amazing game. But it has no rules. You say, I shoot the guy in the face, and if it's your scene, then you shot the guy in the face because you said it happened. We're not removing like the randomizers and the things that make it feel like a role-playing game. We're just removing that slow bog down. Okay, get out the ruler. Especially when you look at Savage Worlds, it moves in inches. I mean, when you see these really complicated, cool Savage Worlds games, they don't even have grids. They actually have to get out and measure where they're moving to, and awesome. I mean, I'm in sheer admiration of people that can do that. But
bless their hearts.
Okay.
I think it says a lot to the strength of the system that people like us who don't use minis. I do VTTs, and I'll throw down minis for the big ones if I need to know exact positioning, but I almost do all Theater of the Mind. Dan, you do nothing but Theater of the Mind. Nathan, sounds like you're doing nothing but Theater of the Mind. Susan, I don't know what you're writing. But
I'm doing both.
Yeah, but then we have people who are running riffs on like Warhammer battle tables. And we're running the same game, and both versions work just as well.
Right.
Yeah, I've been watching all the Con on the Cob updates on Facebook and seeing all the tables. Yeah. And I'm so jealous. I'm going next year. I've decided.
Dude, you should meet up, Dan. We should totally meet up because it's not far.
Dang it, that's another one we got to do. We were already talking about doing PAX.
Yeah, I think
because next year is planned to be the year of cons. If anything works out,
I want to do a bunch, but I'll probably end up doing one. And I think Con on the Cob is going to be the one because it's like it's centrally enough located that I don't have to like go too far to get there.
You promised me PAX Unplugged in Philly.
That's true.
Promised me PAX Unplugged.
I sure did.
I'm pretty sure I heard that.
Yeah, that wasn't a group.
And you didn't just promise it to me. You promised it to Mike
Well, we'll have to see about that.
It's all right.
Or we just wrangle Nathan the PAX Unplugged.
Yeah, Pennsylvania is not that far.
With Philly.
Yeah.
I have one question while we're talking about the mechanics of Suede. One of the things that I do tend to worry about is that with support, that a game that's built pretty, in favor of success is now super in favor of success. And is there any mechanic that sort of assists the GM? Because I'm one of those GMs that is constantly forgetting to put negative modifiers on things. That sort of assists in creating that to sort of to create a little bit more tension and counter to that.
Okay, this actually perfectly segues into what I wanted to talk about next when it comes to narrative verbiage. Anyways, the fact that they shift it, and I know there's a lot of people like, conditions are going to be a problem. It's going to be horrible. Conditions fix this because you can make a character vulnerable in tests, giving everyone a +2, but a character can't become vulnerable more than once. It stops at once.
It doesn't stack.
Yeah, it doesn't stack. Once they're vulnerable, they're vulnerable. That's a huge limiter. It's a massive limiter between vulnerable and distracted. The worst you can have them is have both on them, and
that's bound.
Technically, yeah. Well, no. Well, technically, you can have one player do a test and make them vulnerable, and another player can do a test and make them distracted, and start ganging up. But after two players have done that, other than shaking him, there's nothing more they can do. You're already at the limits.
One thing I'll say about GM balance is, and I have the same problem. I feel the same way as you, Susan, that I feel like Savage Worlds is super powerful. And I often talk about on the forums, like, players don't fail. And it's hard. Like, I recently got into a discussion on a post about dramatic tasks. And they were like, it doesn't feel dramatic. And I was like, I totally agree, because it doesn't sometimes. I've had you guys do boating rolls in my 50 Fathoms game, and you guys blow it out of the water every time. Like, you need a raise, and you get like 3 raises over every time. It's not dangerous. You guys are never going to crash that boat. It's almost impossible with bennies and assists.
Even with Mike at the helm.
This is where me and Nathan are going to have to choose words very carefully.
You guys will.
But I will just say a lot of this has been addressed with some optional rules now being core, which makes things swing tremendously, because in Savage Worlds, a small change can have big impacts when you actually look at the game. As well as a lot of other subsystems have been retooled.
Another thing I'll say from just a strictly Savage Worlds in general look is not things like the boating roll, where I can't really oppose it except for like negative modifiers. But when it comes to combat, feeling unbalanced with gang up and assists, just always try to remember that, and I don't, but always try to remember that the enemies can do the same thing.
Can do it too. Yeah.
The enemies can explode and gang up and tie up. And
I was actually thinking about it more in non-combat situations where it just looks like the boating rolls and, the persuasion rolls and things like that. I mean, I guess, like, if you're thinking about it, and I'm not saying do this because I'm the player in your 50 Fathoms game, but it's sort of like, whip up the seas, and whip up squall or something so that it becomes trickier.
I will say one thing that has always bugged me with the dramatic, and if you guys know me, I love dramatic tasks. They're my go-to mechanic. I have modified those for montage and all that. What has always bugged me with dramatic tasks is their example of how to do dramatic tasks correctly used different skills within the dramatic task, where you need this skill to do this portion of the task and this skill to do that. And the rules never explained how to do different skills. Like, in their example, it was something like notice the spot the bomb, then repair the disable the bomb, then throw the chuck the bomb. But by the rules, if he got 5 successes in notice, it's done.
So then how do you narratively do it?
Yeah.
Right. It was poorly. The example was not as well done as the mechanic was intended. And the mechanic works better than the example. And I think we will see some changes. And I think some of the people in this group right now know the changes we're going to see that will be better. So I'm going to say, for me and you, Susan, we're just going to have to hold on tight for a few more days. Well, I guess a few weeks, right? I think
a few weeks. It's going to take 2 to 3 weeks, according to Jody, for them to get the money. And as soon as they get our money,
Yeah.
they'll give the books.
We'll get the PDF.
Which means I have 2 to 3 weeks to start making Savage Worlds videos so I can drop them as soon as the books are out.
I will say, as a person, I tend to be a fairly optimistic person. I try to be, but I'm incredibly optimistic about this edition.
Yeah.
Yeah. From everything I've seen,
I think there's a lot of concern.
over the moon.
In the Kickstarter, they literally tout 15 years of experience being boiled back in. It shows.
Yeah.
So I think I'm very safe in saying this after Kurt's review. Every edition of Savage Worlds since this has been like an upgrade or a tweak, kind of refining, kind of adding on. This is the ground up rebuild. It's rebuilding the same thing, just better.
I want to talk about a couple more things that were brought up actually in that video, Kurt's video.
Okay.
Because I thought they were really interesting, and they may have mentioned other places, but I cited him directly from his video because I was taking notes while I watched him right before we came on live. He talked about power modifiers from the Superpowers Companion are now part of Core, or something similar. They might not work the exact same way. So what that means is, so like the Superpowers Companion, if you have a ranged melee, or I mean a ranged attack, not ranged melee, because that's absolutely absurd. If you have a ranged attack, you can make it, okay, I want to make it into a burst template, or I want to make it armor piercing, or I want to add heavy weapon. You can now do that for extra power points, and this is core powers now.
I think the safest way to put this, because technically it's using words Pinnacle has already said, but putting it into different context. They told you Flash Gordon was going to be a preview of Adventurers Edition.
Well, Bobby,
there's a section in Flash Gordon.
I haven't read Flash Gordon yet.
Well, but that's the safest way I can put it. There's a section in Flash Gordon that says, these are the rules that change the core rules. There's more in Flash Gordon that shows what's in the new core rules than just that section.
But what Dan is saying, though, like in that edition, or in what Kurt Riegel says, like, yeah, I mean, he spells that out straight up. Like, yeah, there's things that
there's modifiers.
You can now spend your power points on. So yeah, that means like if you have an ice bolt, say like an icicle bolt or whatever, you can be like, all right, this is gonna have armor piercing. Like that's pretty.
So I just supercharge my icicle bolt now.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It has a drill bit looking thing on the end and it spins. Yeah.
No, you literally hold it for a second longer and it got bigger.
The mechanical implication is pretty clear. I mean, I wasn't meant to speculate on that because I think we all understand what it means, and everyone here has read the Super's Companion or looked at it at least.
Well, he compares it to the Super's Companion, but it's Flash Gordon.
Sure, and I think
if you want it, look at how Flash Gordon handles it because they do it right there.
Right. I think it's a great system, though. I'm super excited about seeing more to do with the powers. Not that I don't think powers are good the way they stand now, but I think having blood into them is spectacular. Super excited about that. And another thing he mentioned was, let me pull it up. Now, I don't know anything about this, and I don't want anybody who can't say too much to say more than they should. But he talked about the base skills. He didn't say what they were. I don't know if
we already got base skills as a preview.
We know what they are.
So we
already got base skills.
But he also said that it is now dependent on the genre you're playing, and that fantasy games will have a lower skill point allowance than modern games because it reflects the education system in place or how much training the average person has.
I clocked that also. That was not something I had heard before.
No,
I think he even literally said the numbers, but I'm not sure if he did.
He did.
I'm not going to say. Okay.
I didn't catch that, but
I did.
I'll take the heat for this, Nathan. Keep your mouth shut. Just in case.
If I repeat them, you can't get in trouble because Kurt already said them.
Well, I was gonna add a little flair on the end.
Well, okay. How about if I say them and then you won't get in trouble and then you can flare all you want.
Okay.
So my understanding of what he said is you have the core skills. What is it? It's notice, persuasion, stealth, common knowledge, and athletics.
Yes.
And then in the sort of non-modern settings, you would then get 12 additional skill points to allot however you choose. And in the modern settings, to reflect modern education, which is an overestimation of our modern education system, but that's a whole different thing, you'll get 15.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll put it this way. It's not one rule that says it's this or that, but just like in Savage Worlds, there's a baseline expectation.
Sure.
And then a setting rule that says you should typically use this setting rule when you're in this setting. I won't say which one's the setting rule and which one's core, but one's a setting rule and one's just considered core.
Yeah.
Which means GMs can also choose to invoke that setting rule even if you're not in that time period.
So
it's up to them.
Here's my problem with it, and this is just my opinion as a humble nobody in the role-playing world. I don't like it. And I don't like it because of this. I don't like it because of this. The amount your stats represent statistical average. Statistical average doesn't change. If you're playing a game where everybody is a Titan, D6 is average Titan strength. If everyone's playing a smart rat like the Secret of Nim, we'd all have a D6 and it would represent the average strength of a actual rat, but it's still a D6 whether you're a Titan or a rat based on the setting. So I don't like changing numbers because it's already represented by the world average. 15 skill points in fantasy is not the same as 15 skill points in modern because it represents different baselines, if that makes any sense.
I will say it's not about the averages without getting too into it. In fact, I'll give it an example of a skill we already know. In a medieval setting, you won't need driving. There are some skills that just won't be taken in an earlier time period setting. Therefore, your skill point distribution is completely different. I do get how it shifts the averages, but modern characters are expected to have more spread out skills because there's certain skills that you're going to kind of need that just wouldn't exist in a medieval setting.
Right.
There's not many of them, but
but
you
the
know
flip
one
side of that,
one, Nathan.
But the flip side of that, I can think of specific ones. I think Kurt may have mentioned one that was sort of like a technological based one. But then but the flip side of that is like how many modern people know how to track. I mean, you know, they're just as we've adopted or adapted new skills for modern life, we've also lost a lot. So I might be agreeing with Dan on this one.
The skill list has shifted in a way that very much accounts for that I can't say more about.
Well maybe you're right. I haven't seen the final print, so. No, I had heard a lot of speculation about like thievery, thief-based skills being grouped together. So,
right. And Kurt was pretty specific about a few things as well in the session.
Yeah, he said a lot. Actually, I was surprised.
He went all out.
He did.
As I was watching it, I was I hope they approved this first.
Yeah, I was too.
Because he talked about some of the ones that had been part of the arcane backgrounds that then they've just pulled in as like skills.
Yeah.
And I can say that.
It's been the hour, guys. I gotta get going.
All right.
Also,
so we're getting close to the end of our time, anyways. Now that Bobby's gone, we'll wrap it up pretty soon. But another thing I thought was really great was they talked about the new Benny uses that came up in the.
Yes.
I don't know if it was announced officially by Peg before it, but they put it up during the saving throw live. Yeah. He put it on the screen as like a cheat sheet. And a lot of people like picked up on that, and it included the PowerPoint regeneration, which I think we already mentioned this show. But there was a narrative control mechanic.
Right.
Which, again, we talked about it's going more narrative, at least the way I would play it based on the rules that I'm seeing. 'Cause it's more now of an option. I love this narrative Benny mechanic that you can say, I'm going to spend the Benny. Can I have already set up ABC? You know, an example I think of specifically is they did it for the GM Hangout podcast way back when they did a setting series. They ran a cyberpunk game, and one of the mechanics that they built custom for their game was
Right.
very similar. Was you do like a setup phase, and then you earn setup bennies. You can use those bennies to do narrative control. And somebody did it for like their escape helicopter. They got to the roof, and they're like, okay, I'm going to use like one of the setup bennies that during the setup I called in a helicopter, but they hadn't discussed it before because you don't know what kind of things you're going to run into.
Right.
Because even though the GM can't plan, players can't really plan as well as they would like to either. So I love this new mechanic that players can now spend their bennies to think like, oh, well, you know, we did this big planning phase, but
Right.
as a human being, I didn't think of this because I'm not a master criminal. I'm not a CIA operative. I don't fight the Cthulhu monsters on the weekend.
I do.
But but my character does, so I would know this thing. And if it ever happens, I'm going to Susan's house because she knows how to fight the Cthulhu
Exactly.
monsters.
Well, we did it. We did it recently in one of Bobby's games. That thing around the pool, and I said, you know, can I do a notice roll to see if there's a big pile of chemicals there? And he's like, you can spend a penny and they will magically appear. And I was like, okay, dang it. And I'm interested in that, but it puts a lot of onus on the GMs. I think a lot of the new Benny rules I think are really cool. There's the spend a Benny to do something else that you couldn't do before.
Let me see, I have it here. Oh, you can get a new action card.
Yeah, you can get a new action card, which I thought was huge, and you can spend them now as a core rule on damage rolls.
Yes, which I think is awesome, and players are going to love that.
Yeah, so but then of course that puts a lot of pressure, either depending on what kind of game you run, on the GM to be giving out bennies throughout the course of the game. Otherwise, you've got people with 3 bennies, and they are really, really carefully deciding how they're going to use them.
Yeah, and Nathan, for example, understands this because I'm playing in Nathan's game, and he runs a Benny tight economy. It's not a bad thing for the right mood you're setting because he's running a horror game, and Susan, you're running
horror.
Yeah, you're running the Lovecraft Tesla setting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Actually, I didn't even know that until we did the episode that is now lost in translation.
Exactly.
Telling me about it. So, for like a horror game, you know, you are already going to be cutting back on the bennies, and then to introduce a new mechanic to create the Benny drain is phenomenal. Because I'm a huge advocate for the Benny drain, and actually, that's what I proposed when I had the dramatic task conversation. It was Paris from the Wild Die was the one who feels dissatisfied with the dramatic task, and I was like, well, run it at the end of your session, drain their Benny economy, get them low, run a combat first, run whatever you have to do, get them down, and then you run these things, and they don't have the bennies to spend to re-roll. It feels a lot more tense.
Right.
That's what I did with you guys with the quick encounter was the end of our session. And the bennies were pretty low, and it felt a little more dramatic than at the beginning of the session.
Right. And I think it's that situation, like, for example, I play with newer players. So the idea that you hold on to that one just as you're entering into a combat, you know, whatever, just in case you're rolling on the incapacitation table, hasn't really dawned on them. And so it's I think they are learning about the Benny economy and how you really have to sort of manage it. And at some point, they're going to figure out I'm not going to keep giving them, you know, bennies when they need them.
I actually finally killed some players in a one shot with my freedom. I had a rocket launcher that did 66 damage.
No way!
Oh, actually, I had like 4 of them. I was just lighting everybody up, but they have like 13, 14 toughness, so it wasn't all bad, you know. But yeah, it was really fun. And actually, Scott, who you know, he played, and it was his first Savage Worlds game, and I killed his character.
Well, that's okay, because the first time I played his game, he killed me.
Oh God, he was hanging on a building, and I killed him. And we ruled that he fell off and landed in a shopping cart because it was like a shopping center. And he was, like, and he fell in the shopping cart, and it like rolled away when the explosion went off, and he just like coasted through town unconscious in the back of a shopping cart. But I allowed him to make like one final like death shot from his pistol and like shoot somebody, and it was really fun.
Was it a good game?
Oh yeah, it was a blast. It was really fun. Yeah, it's Freedom Squadron has a ton of potential. It's a product in the works. You know what I mean? It has some more like rough edges to get sanded, but it is a blast.
That's awesome. So Nathan, it's been nice to meet you. I have to admit we should chat more. But I'm kind of interested, sort of like I'm as Bobby and Dan know, I'm very new even to the world of role playing, and as a GM, so it's been really fun for me to be playing in games with Dan and with Bobby, and to like listen into all these different podcasts to get a sense of like different GM styles. And so as we progress in these podcasts, I'm hoping that we'll be able to talk about that a little bit more in the future, because I love, because he says you're really stingy with the bennies, and I want to hear more about that.
Well, see, what's funny about that is normally I am 100% not. Like if you ask my players, my home game, I hand them out like candy, like all the time. I'm like, hey, you asked to take a break before you went to the bathroom. Take a benny. I don't care. Whatever. Like, that's the exact. It's pretty crazy. With this game, though, to me, the mood was so important to set. And one of the setting rules is that you can share bennies with other players as long as it fits the narrative, because it's all about fighting against this alien invasion of bugs, right? So everyone's united together. So one thing that I wanted to do with that was really stress, like, okay, like, the truth is I've also used that for heroic setting, that same rule, and it can get crazy. Like how, if you hand out bennies like crazy, people are passing them when someone runs out, and just no one gets hurt ever. So with a darker setting like that, Joker's Wild was important to it, because it's like, hey, this is when you get bennies. Like the rule stipulates, like, this is for stingy game masters. That's what this is typically used for. So I told the players straight up, if there's a Joker, you get a benny, otherwise you don't. I mean, I might give you. Yeah, complaint noted.
No, not a complaint at all. Our first combat, one of our players, we were in a Jeep, and the bugs started coming up on the sides, and we're like fighting them out the windows, and our driver lost control and crashed, and he failed his driving check, and everyone had bennies, but combat was just starting, and the driver had used all his, and nobody would give him a benny. We were like, no, the Jeep's crashing. We're like, nope, we're not dealing with this. Nope, like nobody would give up a benny, and I'm not even joking. And like that was our cliffhanger for the session, and I had like 3 of them, and I was like, I need them. Like, no, you can't have any.
But it wasn't that nobody would. This is important. There was a guy at the back of the Jeep that would, but if you give a benny, it has to make sense narratively, right?
Right. So,
Dan is in the front of the Jeep with this guy. It would make sense for him to grab the wheel, turn it.
I had already done that once.
This other guy in the back seat, he can't really do much because he's fighting off bugs. So he said, I would give you benny, but narratively it doesn't make sense. Dan looked at me dead in the face and said, it'll be more interesting to see what happens.
Well, I'm a good
So player. It's all your fault. So let me ask you guys this: if you end in a cliffhanger, like in the middle of a combat session because you're running out of time or whatever, do you keep the benny level where it is, or do you refresh the benny level when you resume?
I always refresh.
Always refresh. Yeah.
Dang.
Just because the way the rules are written, if you end on a cliffhanger, I put that on the GM's responsibility. Like, well, you blew your chance to kill them all.
Yeah. Well, I actually my team just walked into kind of a nest, and they had used up almost all their bennies, and I'm like, oh.
What I like to do with that, personally, what I found useful is, like, if it's a situation where they're out, I like to narrate, like, right at the cliffhanger, some ray of hope, right? And then, like, the new session starts, boom, we got our bennies because this awesome, story thing happened. Either a character we thought was dead arrives, or something that, like, gives us hope again. And then vice versa. If they, like, have a ton of bennies, so when they come back, they'll lose some.
Right.
You describe it as this horrifying creature that they fight or whatever.
Right.
That's helped me in the past, but
make it make sense.
That's a really smart way to handle it, actually. I never really thought. I would just kind of hand wave it, like, yeah, well, it's a new session. Luck refreshed in the blink of an eye. Hopefully, I'm going to turn this episode right around in editing and get it out. Hopefully, so people will have a chance to listen to it before the Kickstarter ends. If you're on the fence, get the Kickstarter because it's going to be awesome.
Kickstarter.
I'd also like to make one more announcement that I've been inspired by the Kickstarter. Nathan, I'm going to throw you on mute. I'm getting a little feedback from you. It's nothing personal. Still love you, buddy. When the jump starts come out, I'm so excited about having all these new settings to play. I'm going to be launching a Savage Saturday night online. I'm hoping to learn Roll20. I've used it a few times. It's not my preferred virtual tabletop, but most people prefer it. So I am vowing to learn it, hopefully with the assistance of Bobby. And I'm going to be running Savage Saturdays, probably starting at once a month, depending on how much demand there is. Running some of the jump starts and maybe some of my own stuff that I come up with along the way. So anybody interested in getting in some games, the people here that I play with regularly, of course, you're always welcome to. And people listening that are like, man, I want to play Savage Worlds, and it's hard to find an online game or try out new GM styles. Keep an eye out in the future. Once the PDFs are in people's hands, I'll be starting to put things together, and we'll play some Savage Worlds.
I think that's awesome. I'm really excited about it. And one of the things that I would definitely say as a newer player, I haven't played with Nathan yet, but I've played with, Dan, and I've played with Bobby. So for any of the folks out there who haven't tried Savage Worlds yet, I think these sort of like one shots or Savage Saturdays would be awesome because it's a super welcoming group. And I have found it to be my learning curve has just been huge. And you guys have just made it awesome and easy and very, very welcoming and fun.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we try. I can't speak for Bobby, but I know I try, and he's been great even with me because my rules comprehension, or maybe not comprehension, but retention is terrible. So I prefer to play with really strong players, but that should not dissuade new people from coming because I can still provide a fun game even if I don't know any of the rules. And with
Even
the new
better.
edition, it should be even easier to not know what I'm doing at all.
Absolutely.
Now, with that said, I think we're going to wrap it up. Nathan, with the new edition, anything special going on with you as a publisher? I mean, I don't know if there is. I don't want to put you on the spot if there's not.
I do have a product in the works, which I'll be announcing here soon. But I also do have plans. I know I had a little following with my mini setting Sewer Rats. I absolutely intend on expanding it, updating it to the new rules, and doing some new stuff with Sewer Rats. So if you're not familiar with the setting, think 1980s, 90s Ninja Turtles, but really gritty, like the original comic book. Throw in some gargoyles from that cartoon and some 90s X-Men, and you've got Sewer Rats. So I definitely plan on updating that, throwing in some adventures and some other stuff in there, as well as updating it to the new rules. So yeah, that's in the works down the road. But also getting back to just some of my more basic PDFs, some more bestiaries and things like that. I'd like to crank out some of that too. So I've definitely got stuff in the works. The problem is I probably have too many ideas. So
yeah, that's awesome. Well, the bestiaries are awesome, and that'll be great to have some with the new rule set. Yeah. Even though it's they're all portable, but people love to have the current information right in front of them. Convenience is king. So that's awesome, and I look forward to seeing some new stuff and playing some more of your games, and probably playing some more of your games with you at some point. Well, and Susan, I don't mean to leave you out if you have any big plans with the new edition, but
no, I'm actually just excited to incorporate it into my own games. And I think the one thing I don't think we mentioned, maybe I missed it, but one of the things I am super looking forward to is the adventure deck.
Yeah, the new adventure. I've never owned one.
I haven't either.
Oh, it's so good. Oh, guys, you're missing out. It is so good. Oh my god. If you as a GM can roll with it, it's amazing. There's one card that the players they always get it. They always pull it out on me, and that is to make an NPC fall in love with you. Always. I one time had a guy was like, hey, this wolf is like antagonizing us. Can I use it on that to like make it my animal companion? I'm like, so you're trying to get the Beastmaster edge out of this? Like you're playing this card to like permanently get the Beastmaster edge out of this? And he's like, well, yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
As I recall, it'll be digital for all the digital backers too. So print that sucker out if you got card sleeves, and go for it.
Yeah. Yep. Or do what I do and put together a really complicated Excel file to randomize your cards. Actually, I wait till someone else does it, and then I download their Excel file to randomize my cards because someone's going to do it for me.
Even that sounds like work, like so much work to me.
And
Right.
I have to, like count through my cards in the PDF. It's I should just print them. I'm so lazy. All right. Well, guys, thanks for joining me, and to the listeners, thanks for listening. Everyone get excited about Adventurers Edition because it's right around the corner. We got, as of the time of recording, we got 3 days. By the time anyone hears this, we're in the last days of the Kickstarter. If you've been holding your breath or waiting, get on there and get this new edition, because from what we've heard here, what we've seen elsewhere, this is going to be not a new game, but enough changes that you're going to want to be in the know for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't want to scare away people that, some people I know aren't going to upgrade, and you can still enjoy the game with Deluxe. I mean, everyone at Pinnacle is saying that, they're not chasing away old customers, but this is a big edition, and at least everyone here is super excited about it.
Very, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really much more I can say about it except, buy more Savage Worlds and play more Savage Worlds, and listen to more of my Savage Worlds podcast. And we'll see everybody next time.
There it is.
I hope you enjoyed our episode today, and if you did, let us know. You can join us on Facebook and Google+. You can reach us by email, or you can leave us a rating and review here on iTunes, which helps us out quite a bit. If you'd like to help the show more than that, you can visit our Patreon. All the information's in the description below. Cheers.